Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Summer here to talk about Lesson 202, Point Slope Form of a Line. Objective for today is that students will be able to identify the slope of a line given the point slope form of a line equation, identify the y-intercept of a line given the point slope form of a line equation, write the equation of a line in point slope form given the graph, and graph the equation of a line given the point slope form of the equation. If you remember, slope, m, is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, otherwise known as rise over run. If you remember from my previous lesson, lesson 201, in the Super Mario comic, he has to jump up and then run forward in order to get whatever in this box and then kill the little mushroom here. If you also remember that this is your y-axis and this is your x-axis. The point slope form of a line is a formula for the equation of a line using its slope and one point. Watch out when you see a positive or a plus instead of a minus in either place in the formula. That represents a negative coordinates or a negative coordinate point. So the formula is y minus y1 is equal to m times the quantity of x minus x1. So this y1 is the y coordinate point for a particular point. A particular point on the line. And over here, this x1 is the x coordinate point for a particular point on the line. And then the m is our slope. Okay? So here's examples for steps for graphing. So the question is, try graphing the line y plus 2 is equal to 1/2 times the quantity of x minus 4. Our step one is to start by placing a point using x1. Let's make that a better one. x1 comma y1. So in this example, our x1 is what? Our x1 in this example is 4. And our y1 in this example is -2. Because if you remember from the previous slide, we had to watch out because when we saw a positive, so a positive here, instead of a negative in place in the formula, that represents a negative coordinate. Because negative times a negative is a positive. Or a negative minus a negative is a positive as well. So the first coordinate point is 4, -2. From there, we need to count on, for step 2, from that point, count out to find the next point. Count out our slope to find the next point. So our slope here is 1/2. So I'm going to start at this point, and I'm going to go up 1 over 1, 2. Up 1 over 2. And our step 3 is to connect the points to form a line. And we draw arrows at the end of each line because the line continues on for infinity. So here's some practicing using the point slope form. So we first find the slope, then write 3 different equations, all using the point slope form by choosing different points each time. So we need to first find our slope, and our slope, if you recall, our slope is m is equal to y2 minus y1, all divided by x2 minus x1. So I'm going to choose these points as my y2 and y1 and x2 and x1. So I'm going to write my y-coordinates. So I have -2 minus 3, all divided by 0 minus -1. And if we simplify that, we get -5 all over +1. So our slope is -5 is our slope. Now we need to use the point-slope form of an equation, which is y minus y1 is equal to m times the quantity of x minus x1. So I'm going to choose this coordinate point to start. So I'm going to start with y minus 3 is equal to -5 times x minus -1. So when I can minus a -1 is actually y minus 3 is equal to -5 x plus 1. So that was the first equation. Now we need to write 3 different ones. So I'm going to start with my next 2 coordinate points. So I have 0 and -2. So I'm going to start the same way. So y minus -2 is equal to -5 times x minus 0. And so I simplify that as y plus 2 is equal to -5 times x, because x minus 0 is just x. And then my next coordinate points, 1 and -7, can write y minus -7 is equal to -5 times x minus 1. So I simplify that as y plus 7 is equal to -5 times x minus 1. So there's 3 different equations that we can write from this data table. Here's another type of question that you might see is write an equation in point-slope form for this line. So we first have to find the coordinate points for one of the points. So I am going to see it's +1, and then we go 1, 2, 3, -3. So that's one point. Now we need to find the slope. So I'm going to count up 1, 2. So I did 2, and then I go over 1, 2, 3. So 2/3 is my slope. So now I just need to write the equation of the line, and I've got my point, and I've got my slope, hence the name point-slope form. And I'm going to write it as y minus -3 is equal to 2. Oh, you know what? I just made a mistake. I just made a mistake because I went up 1, 2, but I went to the left 3. So my slope is actually a negative. So -2/3 times x minus 1. So the equation of this line in point-slope form is y plus 3 is equal to -2/3 times x minus 1. Here's a different type of equation, or a different type of question that you might see. It says, just write the equation of a line in point-slope form for a line that passes through these 2 coordinate points. So I first need to do y2 y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 to find my slope, which is going to be 6 minus 5 over negative 11 minus 4, which is going to simplify to 1 over negative 15. So there's my slope. It's a very shallow slope, or negative 15. So I can write that part, negative 1 over 15. And then I can use either coordinate point, but you have to use the same coordinate points, the same x and the same y. You can't just mix up. You can't do 4 in the one and 6 in another. So I'm going to do y minus 5 is equal to negative 1 over 15 x minus 4 as my equation. A more challenging question. It's challenging because it kind of looks like it's in point slope form, but do you see this coefficient of 2 in front of y? It means we have to divide everything in this equation by 2. And by doing that, we get y minus 4 is equal to negative 1 over 8 x. And that would be the equation in point slope form. So here's a question where it's giving you the equation of the line and it wants you to graph it. So we first have to figure out what the points are. So if I have my x coordinate point is going to be negative 3, because if you look here, it's a positive 3 in the equation, which means the coordinate point is actually a negative. And then we have a positive 1. Then we got to plot that point. So negative 3, positive 1. And then we count out our slope till the next point, and our slope is negative 2. I'm going to go down to 1, 2 over 1. And then I'm going to connect my lines with my arrows, and I'm sorry, I'm terrible at drawing straight lines, and connecting them with arrows at the end. Here's another graphing question, and we can write the coordinate point, so there's no x minus or x plus, where we can assume that the coordinate point is 0, just like we did a couple slides ago. And then we have plus 4, which means our coordinate point is negative 4. And then we need to count out our slope, 3 over 4. So that means we're going to rise up 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to connect it with a line. And then the line needs to have arrows at the end to represent that the line keeps going on forever. Here's a last problem, and it looks very similar to the point slope, but do you see this 2 out in front? It means we got to divide everything by 2 first. So divide both sides by 2. So our equation is actually y minus 3 is equal to 4 times, oops, not 4, it's not 4, it's actually going to be 2 times x minus 2. Okay, so then we need to find our coordinate point, which is going to be 2 and 3. We plot that coordinate point, 2, 3. We use our slope of positive 2 to count down. We can go up 1, 2 over 1, and then go down 2 over 1. And then we connect our lines, or our plot points, and draw arrows at the end to represent it going on forever. Now that you're done with the math stuff, if you printed this out, color it in, doodle, a whole bunch of other things to make your notes pretty. Or if you're using the Cami extension, try coloring it in. It's a little bit more cumbersome doing it that way, but have fun with these notes and have a wonderful weekend.